Today, the search for escaped inmates Richard Matt and David Sweat will expand and shift to other areas surrounding Dannemora. Personnel are being redeployed to other areas based on information gathered during the investigation. People in the region should expect to see law enforcement in their community as the search expands.
All right, folks, we're back, and joining us now is John Cuff, retired U.S. Marshal, 31 years of law enforcement experience, and the manhunt continues. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for being here.
Steve.
All right, where do you think these two guys are?
Well, there's absent any information to the contrary. You have to go with what you have, okay? I've done many of these escape investigations, and the information at hand that's up there is that she didn't show up, the Mitchell woman didn't show up with the getaway car, okay? You can't rule out the possibility that there could have been a plan B, okay? Because it's pretty apparent now from all reports that she was played, okay? So when they come out of that manhole cover and they determine that either A, there's no getaway car, or B, there's a plan B getaway car that no one, that will bear out in the future investigation.
That's interesting too. So they could have had another plan B, being not necessarily where we would get on foot, but plan B being another car. Actually, it would also be there. So that's interesting. So you still think that they are in that general area, or that the reasonable radius of the prison?
Well, until it proves out otherwise. I mean, typically, see, on these escape investigations, typically what you do from day one, and what's been transparent, I think, so far in the public eye, is the fact that there's a parallel fugitive investigation going on in the back channel, okay? That will bear results, okay? So in other words, getting back to the question about the search area, yeah, of course, you have to stick with that. You widen the net right now, okay? You kind of cleared that area, the area where the dogs hit on and so on. You widen the net because they could have gone, they had about a 7 and 8 hour arguably head start, so they could have gone east, south, west, any direction. So you widen that net, start to expand that search, okay? But at the same time, you still have this manhunt, fugitive investigation going on. Now, part of that, you're going to be developing any and all information you can in the prison and their prior life before they went to prison. So that's going to include jail phone records, correspondence, visitor lists, things of that nature.
So if there was another car, you'd start tracking who that person might be.
True. I mean, if there, I mean, it's something you have to consider.
Sure,
There's nothing there right now to suggest that, but you have to consider, because by all accounts, there probably was another individual somehow involved with this.
Would they? Do you think they split up, or they're still together? What would they?
My experience is they'll stay together until they get to a goal line, whatever that goal line was. For example, had that getaway car showed up, got them to their predetermined location, wherever that might be, okay? At that point, they would make a decision. Right now, it's like symbiotic, right? So they would be dependent upon one another, okay, to get to that goal. Then they're a liability to each other at that point. Now, there has been cases where fugitives will stick together. You look at the Texas 7, we've had a few here in New York. But in large part, they'll split up, most of these cases.
And what would have driven the governor? I mean, I'm sure he was being honest, but you know, you always have to, first of all, the network's covering wall to wall. Here's the search area, here's where they are, here's the dogs. I mean, I've watched Criminal Minds, and sometimes they give misleading information. But were they giving, not just CNN, but were they giving too much information that if these guys were in front of a TV, they would know where the search is and where the hot spots are?
I don't think so. I mean, put it this way: they know that they're the hottest ticket out there, so I don't really see any compromise in that.
Then let me get back to the governor. Why would he say they could be in Mexico? And this was a couple of weeks ago already. What's the purpose of telling the public that?
The only thing I mean I could guess on that is the fact that the one escapee, Matt, was down there. I mean, he was down there before. In fact, had an escape down there. So that's a logical place on a fugitive investigation. For example.
But it just makes it sound like we can't do the job. We lost them. We don't know where they are. For all I know, they're in Mexico. I mean, that's how it sounds to the general public. You know, is that a good thing or a bad thing to say?
I don't see it being a bad thing. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they can be anywhere. These guys.
Sure.
Okay, so.
And are they going to find them?
Absolutely.
What's your timetable, do you think? Just a guess, I know, but
You know, it's hard to put a timetable on it, but what I would say right now, that wherever they are, they're hunkered down. So by that I mean they're in probably a safe house of sorts,
Okay.
either that they found on their own,
they
pots,
took-
and that's
yeah.
why it's equally important that the public remain vigilant on this,
right, and
because
see anything
if any of their neighbors,
in.
relatives, things like that haven't been seen or anything like that.
dangerous. All right, good to talk to you, John. Thank
Okay,
you very
safe.
much. All right, folks, we're coming back with the managing editor of the Washington Examiner. But first, Newsmax wants to send one lucky couple on a 7-day Silver Sea cruise to the Caribbean this winter. That's right. It's a luxury cruise around the Silver Wind, and it's a trip of a lifetime. To win, you have to enter. And to enter, you visit newsmax.com/sweepstakes. Newsmax.com/sweepstakes.